What's up, everybody? I'm here doing a quick video to talk about a deck I built for Isaac on a special commission request. And this one is Squall, SeeD Mercenary. So this is the Orzhov 4 mana commander. It's a 3/4 with an ability that says whenever creature you control attacks alone, it gains double strike until end of turn. Whenever Squall deals combat damage to a player, return target permanent card mid value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So I built this one for Isaac, and this is a sort of a Voltron strategy where you're building using equipment and other buffs to attach to your commander, and you want to attack with your commander because it will get both the abilities of double strike if attacking alone, and then when doing combat damage, if it has double strike, he'll do it twice, potentially. You return maybe 2 things with 3 or less from your graveyard to battlefield. And that includes lands, since their permanence value 0. So the strategy with this is both recursion and blink, and trying to lean into Squall's ability. So I'll get into how I did that, and we'll look at the deck here. So I try to keep a kind of a Final Fantasy theme to this deck, since it's a Final Fantasy commander, so I use a lot of the art from those cards. So starting off with the mana ramp and the artifacts here. Sol Ring, Wayfarer's Bauble, Dark Ritual. I used one from Urza's Saga there, I thought fit pretty well. Arcane Signet, Orzhov Signet. Milliken. What's good about this one, it adds mana and also mills cards, so it keeps adding to your graveyard stuff that you can recur later. Infernal Idol. I like this one because not only is it a mana rock for one of the colors you need, but you can sacrifice it, draw 2, and then you can recur it later using Squall's ability or a different one. Matzalantli, the Great Door. So this one, it loots, you can draw a card, discard a card, and then later on you can transform it. If you have 4 more permanent type spell cards in your graveyard, and when you do, you can tap it for mana, and then it adds mana based on the number of permanent cards in your graveyard. I believe that's any color. Archaeomancer's map is really great. Search once artifact enters, search the library for up to 2 basic plains cards, reveal them, put in your hand and shuffle. Whenever a land an opponent controls enters, if that player controls more lands than you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. So it's a bit like burgeoning in that way. It's not any land, it's only if that opponent controls more lands than you. But it does help refill your hand with lands, just basic plains. But that's in addition to whatever else you have. So it's really nice, helps you get ahead a little bit. If you haven't played a few turns, you could, especially against green decks, it'll definitely prove its value. Relic of Legends. I like this one. Tap to 1 mana of any color, or you can tap and tap legendary creature you control at 1 mana of any color. And that is one your opponents might not realize sometimes you have mana open, even when this is tapped. You can tap a legendary creature, add 1 mana of any color that you need. Sign in Blood for draw. Deadly Dispute for draw. Makes treasure. Dire Sight for draw. I like this one because that's Surveil. So you can potentially put things in your graveyard to recur later. Read the Bones. Scry 2 and draw 2. Equals 2 life. Cut a Deal. This one can be a little political. But each opponent draws a card, and you draw a card for each opponent who drew a card this way. So, usually 3. This one, though, Siphon Mind is also a good include that I believe costs the same, but each opponent discards a card, and you draw a card for each card discarded that way. So, kind of depending on what fits better with your play group. Rebuff the Wicked I like. It's a simple counter spell that counters a spell targeting a permanent you control. Often that's going to be Squall because you're going to be leaning heavily on Squall for this deck strategy. Swords of Plowshares, classic removal. Fatal Push with the Final Fantasy Mono art in there. Infernal Grasp. Stitcher Supplier, gain the creatures. Stitcher Supplier is great for a 1-drop, can potentially mill you 6, and then you can recur it later with Squall's ability and get even more. Just keep milling cards. Selfless Spirit is great for protecting your board. You can sacrifice it, you can bring it back later, do it again. Shake Cormac. Now this one I added to add a little bit of a way around permanents with hexproof and indestructible. So this for 1 mana removes hexproof, indestructible, protection, like color protection, shroud, and ward from all permanents your opponents control. And then whatever creature opponent controls becomes the target of a spell ability that you control. You put a bounty counter on it. Whenever you put a bounty counter, whenever a creature with a bounty counter on it dies, Shake Cormac gets 2+1/+1 counters. So it keeps getting bigger. And it's great for helping to get rid of those things that are tough to get rid of. Warnog is a good blink target because when Warnog comes in, you get to investigate, you get clues, and it drains your opponents of life. Also, when Warnog leaves the battlefield, you get to investigate. Philia is really good for blinking things. And then when Philia does, she has flash, she gets bigger. Curse of Marauder. This card's becoming very well recognized in a lot of play groups. It is a really nasty forced sacrifice creature because it forces the sacrifice of a non-token creature. Squall as Daneth the Caption Paragon. So this is to help with the casting cost of your equipment spells, also as a potential backup target for your equipment. Boromir helps to protect against free spells. Your opponent casts a spell. If no mana was spent to cast it, counter that spell. So you can sacrifice Boromir as an instant, and the creatures you control get indestructible end of turn, and the ring tempts you. So kind of similar to Selfless Spirit in that way. And then, of course, you can bring him back because you're not exiling Boromir. Morbid Opportunist for a little additional card draw. There will be a lot of creatures that die or get sacrificed during the game. Shinra Reinforcements. When it enters, mill 3 cards, gain 3 life. Another way to put things in your graveyard. Murderous Rider. So this one's a creature. You can recur it if it is in your graveyard. And then you can use it as an instant to destroy a creature Planeswalker. And then as a creature has lifelink, and then when it dies goes to the bottom. So it's a really handy creature. Can come in handy in some nice situations. Bastion Protector. Commander creatures you control +2/+2 and indestructible. And also it's less than 3. It's 3 mana CMC, so you can recur it. Demon's Disciple for removal. Each player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. Garden of Girapur. When it enters the battlefield, exile to 1 target creature or artifact you control. Return to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. It's another blinking creature. Flicker Wisp for more blink. Recruit the Guard as a blink target. Recruit the Guard enters the battlefield and may search your library for a creature card with a toughness 2 or less. Reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle your library. There are a lot of creatures in here with toughness 2 or less that are very useful, like a Cursed Marauder. Junk Diver. When it dies, return another target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. That's mostly why there's a flying blocker, and then when it dies, bring something back. Solemn Simulacrum is a blank target for ramp and card draw. Guardian Scalelord. So this one's fun. It has backup 1, and whenever it attacks, return target non-land permanent card with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, where X is this creature's power. So backup means when it enters the battlefield, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. That creature gets Guardian Scalelord's abilities until end of turn. So then, as that creature swings, it gets all this text right here, basically. Rules lawyers, let me know if I'm getting that one wrong. Revelark as another way to recur things. This one's power 2 or less, not toughness 2 or less, but it brings back 2 things, and you can evoke it. Sun Titan. When there's attacks, return target permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So similar to what Squall does, but it also does it on entering. Meteor Golem as a great classic blink target. Destroy target non-land permanent and opponent controls when it enters. So keep bringing that one back. Angel of the Ruins. You can cycle this one away for planes, or you can exile up to 2 target, and then when it enters the battlefield, you exile up to 2 target artifacts or enchantments. So however you blink it, bring it back, return from the graveyard, this thing gets nasty really quickly. Now we're getting to the equipment. So Blackblade Reforged quickly makes Squall very large. Sort of once in future. Gets you some surveil, so that you can keep putting things in the graveyard, a little bit of card selection, and then any of the instances or sorceries may have like 2 or less in your graveyard. You can cast them without paying their mana cost. Also, protection from blue and black is not bad. Those are good colors to have protection from. Nettle Cyst. Nettle Cyst also quickly makes Squall very large. +1/+1 for each artifact and or enchantment you control. And it's a living weapon, so when it comes to play, you do have that 1 extra creature if you need a blocker. Conqueror's Flail. +1/+1 for each color among permanents you control. As long as the equipment is attached to a creature, opponents can't cast spells during your turn. So it's very helpful at protecting you during your turn. It locks your opponents out of interfering. And then it's generally going to get +2/+2 unless you happen to control some other multicolor permanents through some turn of the game. Champion's Helm, +2/+2 and hexproof, because your commander is legendary, as are most of your targets for equipment in this deck. Wrecking Ball Arm. Equipped creature has base and power toughness 7/7. Can't be blocked by creatures power 2 or less. So it can't be chump blocked by any 1/1 tokens. And 7/7 is nothing to sneeze at. Nim Deathmantle. So this is also one that can help with blinking and recurring things. Equipped creature gets +2/+2, has Intimidate, is a black zombie. Can't be blocked except by artifact creatures and or creatures that share a color with it. Since you only have 2 colors in your commander's color identity, that means that green, red, and blue creatures cannot block unless they're artifacts. So the real reason this isn't here, though, is whenever a non-token creature is put into your grave from the battlefield, you may pay 4. If you do, return that card to the battlefield and attach Nim Deathmantle to it. So if you have the mana open, you can bring anything back that dies straight back from your graveyard. Any enters the battlefield trigger again, and then Nim Deathmantle is attached. So something like, I don't know, anything that removes things like Meteor Golem, comes back, dies, you bring it back, and it triggers again. So you get the idea. This is one of those cards that can go infinite in the right setup, but this deck's not really designed to do that. Hero's Heirloom. Equipped creature gets +2/+1 as long as equipped creature is legendary, has trample and haste. Those aren't bad things to have. Mask of Memory gives you a little bit more looting. It's another equipment. It costs 1 to equip. Whenever the equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you may draw 2 and discard 1. Memories of Nibelheim. Stroke of Midnight. Destroy target non-land permanents. Controller creates a 1/1 white human creature token. I think it's a little bit better than the Generous Gift. Get a 1/1 instead of a 3/3. Vindicate. Destroy target permanent. It's at sorcery speed. Otherworldly Journey can blink something. You can also blink your opponent's things. So if you have something your opponent has that's a creature that's in the way, you can remove it, get it out of the way so you can swing it through. Scroll Shift. I really like this one. Exile up to 1 target artifact, creature, or enchantment you control. Return it to the battlefield under its owner's control and draw a card. So it's broad. Artifact, creature, or enchantment covers a lot of things. It's instant speed, so you can use it to protect something, or you can use it to blink something that gives you value and comes back. And then you draw a card from it. Unearth. Has cycling in case you don't need it, but otherwise, return target creature card many of value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. And this deck has plenty of those. Buried Alive. Search your library for up to 3 creature cards and put them in your graveyard. Shuffle your library afterwards. So that one's obvious how useful that is. Lots of creatures in here that want to go to the graveyards, then come back. Ascend from Avernus. Return all creature and planeswalker cards that may value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Then exile Ascend from Avernus. That's kind of a catch-all. It's more of a later game spell, but when you do cast it, it usually has a pretty solid payoff. Single combat. Each player chooses a creature or planeswalker they control and sacrifices the rest. Players can't cast creature or planeswalker spells until the end of your next turn. Now this one's kind of nasty because you really get to limit what's on the board, and then for a whole turn cycle, they can't cast any more creatures or planeswalkers. So doesn't mean they can't get tokens or make copies, but as far as creature spells themselves or planeswalker spells, they can't do it. Final Judgment, exile all creatures. Since your deck is not reliant on having lots of creatures on the board, it usually won't hurt you as much as it'll hurt your opponents. And you can recast your commander if you need to. Authority of the Consuls. This is there to slow down your opponents. Creatures opponents control enter tapped. Whenever a creature opponent controls enters, you gain 1 life. That's to slow down those token decks and all the ones that want to make lots of hasty creatures. Darksteel Mutation for removal. Turns something into a 0/1 insect, loses all abilities, and is indestructible. Eye of Nidhogg. Turns a creature into a black dragon, power and toughness 4/2, has flying, death touch, and is goaded. You could put it on your commander if you want to, but it's great to put on your opponent's things, goad them, and make them less of a problem for you. And also, when Eye of Nidhogg is put into a graveyard in the battlefield, return it to its owner's hand. So you get to do it again. Forge Anew. Forge Anew enters the battlefield, return target equipment card from your graveyard to the battlefield. As long as it's your turn, you may activate equip abilities anytime you could cast an instant. Pay 0 rather than pay the equip cost of the first equip ability you activate during each of your turns. So that's nice. It really cuts down the cost of equipping equipment, and then the instant speed is a really nasty surprise at times. And then, of course, the recursion, bring something back. It's very valuable. All right, now we're getting the lands. I'm counting the MDFC here as lands because there are so many useful ones these days, like Boggart Trawler, that you can pay life to bring in untapped if needed. And then on the other side, you can recur this one as a 3-drop and exile graveyards as you need to. Glassman Grace, similar. It's great to enhance your commander or another target, +2/+2 flying lifelink. Also a dual land if you need it. Command Tower, Exotic Orchard, Shattered Sanctum, Cave Sequoilos, Isolated Chapel, Fayette Heath, Orzhov Basilica for bounce. Sometimes bounce might be good if you want to cycle something away. Godless Shrine for a shockland. Desolate Mire, Shine Shadow Snarl, Bright Climb Pathway, Spymaster's Vault. Another way you can put things in the graveyard is Conniving, activating this ability. Monumental Henge helps you get your artifacts and put them in your hand. And any legendaries. Capital City, I like it because that's cycling and there's untapped. So you can cycle it away if need be. You can recur it with Squall's ability or others. And if you need to filter mana, you can. Evolving Wilds, Bray Havens, Scries, let's do select cards, and then you may have legendary creatures in graveyard later for the colors you need. Cathedral of War is there for the Exalted ability, so that Squall gets the extra +1/+1 attacking alone. And Buried Ruin returns an artifact from your graveyard to your hand if you sacrifice it. Rogue's Passage to be unblockable. And then basics. Is that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 swamps and 1, 2, 3, 6 planes. So that is the deck. Isaac, hope you enjoy it. If you've been just watching along, hope you also had fun. And please leave any comments, anything you think I should add or Any balance issues you think we may experience on this in the future? I'm including a sideboard of cards that didn't quite make the cut, so Isaac will have a little more to play around with, making adjustments. But thank you all for listening. Thanks for joining, and see you next time.